Patricio Pitbull has made a career out of defying expectations, but as he prepares for his third UFC appearance this Saturday at UFC Paris, questions about his longevity and ability to compete with the next wave of talent continue to swirl. The former two-division Bellator champion, who has already cemented his place as one of the most decorated fighters outside the UFC, is now attempting to carve out a similar legacy under the brightest lights of the sport. Standing across from him will be Kape, himself a proven force as a two-division Octagon MMA title holder. One fighter who knows Pitbull's game intimately is Jeremy Kennedy. The Canadian contender once challenged Pitbull for Bellator's featherweight belt and came away from the experience with a healthy respect for the Brazilian's skill set. Speaking recently on MMA Canada, Kennedy admitted that while Pitbull's pedigree speaks for itself, time may not be on his side anymore. He pointed to Pitbull's most recent outings, a tough debut loss to Yair Rodriguez at UFC 314, followed by a bounce-back win over Dan Ige at UFC 318, as evidence that while the veteran can still compete, he may be struggling to reach the same heights he once did. Kennedy didn't mince words when assessing the challenge ahead. He suggested that Keita's physicality and explosiveness could prove to be too much for the aging legend, noting that Pitbull has not quite hit his stride in the UFC despite his quick turnaround schedule. At 1-1 in the promotion, this upcoming bout feels pivotal. A win would establish momentum and give Pitbull credibility as a contender, while a loss could reinforce the perception that his peak years are behind him. Pitbull's UFC campaign in 2025 has already been an ambitious one, with Saturday marking his third fight of the year. That activity reflects both his determination and the urgency of a fighter trying to make the most of this late career chapter. For Kape, meanwhile, the matchup represents a chance to add a marquee name to his resume and make an immediate splash with a global fan base. As Fight Week in Paris approaches, the storyline is clear. Pitbull is battling not only a hungry and powerful opponent in Kape, but also the creeping weight of time and expectations. Kennedy, like many observers, believes the scales may be tipping against the Brazilian, but Pitbull has made a career of proving doubters wrong, and UFC Paris offers him yet another chance to do exactly that. Robert Whittaker has never been shy about breaking down big fights, and ahead of UFC 322, he sees the pressure meter pointing firmly at Islam Makhachev. The lightweight king stepping up to challenge Della Matalena at welterweight is already a blockbuster move, but in Whittaker's eyes, it's one that comes with all the risk and very little reward. On his Arcade podcast, the former UFC middleweight champion explained why the stakes are so uneven. Makhachev, he said, is already the UFC's poster boy, a dominant champion whose name is tied to the likes of Khabib Nurmagomedov, and whose reputation is built on suffocating wrestling and consistency. He's the hottest prospect right now in MMA, Whittaker noted, before pointing out that fans and pundits alike largely expect him to steamroll his Australian opponent. That expectation, he argues, creates the perfect storm, where anything less than dominance is viewed as a failure. Then there's the surprise factor of Makhachev giving up his lightweight belt to chase this opportunity. Whittaker admitted that while it made sense in the broader trend of fighters like Ilia Topuria doing the same, he didn't think the UFC would risk stripping its most bankable star of his strap. To Whittaker, it reinforces the point that the Dagestani champion has committed to this move with no safety net, raising the stakes even higher. When it comes to how the fight itself plays out, Whittaker leaned toward Matalena as the potential spoiler. He praised the Aussie's X factor, the grit, determination, and ability to stay composed even under duress. In his view, if the fight becomes a largely stand-up battle, Matalena's boxing and shot selection could carry him over 5 rounds. And while most assume Makhachev will lean heavily on his wrestling, Whittaker reminded listeners not to overlook Matalena's underrated jiu-jitsu and offensive guard. That threat, he suggested, might make Islam more hesitant with his takedown attempts than fans expect. Whittaker even compared the possible dynamic to Makhachev's first clash with Alexander Volkanovski, where the smaller man created far more resistance than anticipated. For him, that's the blueprint of how Matalena could turn the tables at Madison Square Garden. In short, Whittaker sees one man free to swing for the fences with nothing to lose, and another forced to defend not just his reputation, but his place at the very top of the UFC's global hierarchy. At UFC 322, he believes the weight of that pressure rests squarely on Islam Makhachev's shoulders. The heavyweight division is officially under new leadership, and Tom Aspinall is carrying the torch for British MMA as the undisputed UFC heavyweight champion. After being elevated from interim champion to full title holder earlier this summer, Aspinall is preparing to defend his crown for the first time when he faces Ciryl Gane in the main event of UFC 321 on October 25th. While fans are eager to see how the 31-year-old looks in his first defense, there's also plenty of talk about what the future could hold beyond the octagon. That speculation only grew louder after Aspinall's father and longtime coach, Andy Aspinall, shared some candid thoughts in a video posted to his son's YouTube channel. Andy made it clear that above all else, his priority is his son's health and long-term well-being. He emphasized that Tom can walk away whenever he feels ready, with no obligation to fight longer than necessary. Still, he admitted he'd love to see his son pursue one big money opportunity outside the UFC before he eventually hangs up the gloves. "If he's not bothered about the money, I'd love him to have a very highly paid boxing match for the money," Andy said. "You know, the money's there, and I don't see why somebody as talented as Tom shouldn't have a piece of that when the boxers are getting 100 times more than 100 times more. The UFC ain't paying that type of money." Andy's comments reflect a long-running conversation in MMA about fighter pay, especially when compared to athletes in other sports. Despite Tom's status as one of the best heavyweights on the planet, Andy pointed out that his son earns a fraction of what soccer stars or NFL players take home, even though MMA carries far greater risks. "When he's got enough to get out of it, I'd say get out of it," Andy continued. "It's very dangerous, and he's one of the best in the world at doing what he does, but he's not getting paid enough. Compared to footballers or boxers, it doesn't add up." For now, the focus remains on UFC 321 and Ciryl Gane. But with crossover bouts continuing to dominate headlines, from Francis Ngannou stepping into the ring with Tyson Fury to Conor McGregor's mega fight with Floyd Mayweather, it's not hard to imagine Tom Aspinall entertaining a similar opportunity down the line. Whether he sticks to the octagon or eventually tests himself in boxing, the Aspinall era has officially begun, and both fans and family seem aligned on one thing: Tom should enjoy the ride, make his money, and know when it's time to walk away. Those numbers really tell a story. Tony Ferguson absolutely dominated the viewership, pulling 1.7 million viewers for his Misfits Boxing 22 fight against Salt Papi. That's more than double Darren Till versus Luke Rockhold, and 8 times Dylan Dennis fight. It's clear the fans have never stopped supporting Ferguson. Even after all the ups and downs of his UFC career, he still commands huge attention when he steps in the ring. The numbers highlight not just his popularity, but the kind of draw he is, even outside of MMA. Honestly, 1.7 million views? That's a statement. People still want to see Tony fight, and they tune in no matter the sport or opponent. It's a testament to his legacy and the aura he's built over the years. Miesha Tate has long been regarded as one of the trailblazers of women's MMA, and now it seems she's approaching the final chapter of her career. The former UFC bantamweight champion has given fans some clarity about what the future looks like for her, admitting that while she isn't officially retired just yet, her time inside the octagon is coming to an end. Speaking on the Jackson podcast, Tate explained that she still has one fight remaining on her current UFC contract, but she has no interest in extending her deal. "I'm not officially done," she said. "I still have a fight on my contract. One fight. I wouldn't fight more than one more time. I'm not looking to re-sign." While she hasn't fully committed to competing again, Tate made it clear that if she does return, it would be for one final bout. "I think just one more, if that, but I haven't decided for sure. I might be leaning towards not fighting again," she admitted. When asked about the possibility of crossing over into boxing, she quickly shut the idea down. "Boxing for real? Like, I'm not gonna go do that." Tate's words highlight a woman who has given everything to the sport and doesn't feel the need to prove anything further. Her legacy is already secure, She helped pioneer women's MMA alongside names like Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm, and Amanda Nunes, and her 2016 victory over Holm to win the Bantamweight Championship remains one of the most iconic moments in UFC history. Now, at this stage of her journey, the question isn't whether Tate can still compete with the best, it's whether she even needs to. After all, she's already accomplished more than most fighters could dream of. If she decides to walk away without another fight, she leaves behind an incredible body of work. If she does step into the octagon one last time, fans will no doubt rally to give her the send-off she deserves. Either way, Miesha Tate has nothing left to prove. Her name will forever be etched in UFC history as one of the fighters who helped carry women's MMA into the mainstream. Israel Adesanya has shared his prediction for the UFC Paris main event, where Nassourdine Imavov will face Caio Borralho in a middleweight clash with high stakes. After a busy summer for the division, with Khamzat Chimaev crowned champion and contenders like Rainier de Ritter and Anthony Hernandez making waves, the focus now shifts to this potentially pivotal fight. Imavov is coming off back-to-back main events and recently handed Adesanya himself a second-round TKO loss at UFC Riyadh. Borralho, meanwhile, returns after nearly finishing former title challenger Jared Cannonier in August of last year. Despite Imavov's momentum and home country advantage in France, Adesanya favors Borralho to continue his unbeaten streak in the UFC. Borralho, known as The Natural, has yet to taste defeat in the promotion and has defeated his last 3 opponents decisively. He is part of the Core 4 Fighting Nerds, alongside teammates Jean Silva, Carlos Prates, and Mauricio Ruffi. Adesanya praised Borralho's consistency and skill set, predicting a close but decisive win for the Brazilian. They're fighting in France as well. Home court advantage. I don't know how that's going to play with Nassourdine, but I don't think it's going to impact him negatively or positively, Adesanya said. I'm going to go Caio in this fight, and I'm going to go decision. I'm going to go decision by Caio. Adesanya added that Imavov will likely try to mix in grappling early to keep Borralho guessing, but he still expects Borralho to control the fight. Imavov probably initiates the grappling first, because he'll have to mix it up. But I'm still gonna go Caio, and I think it's gonna be a unanimous decision. It'll be a good fight, he concluded. The matchup promises a technical showdown, combining Borralho's precision striking and unbeaten confidence with Imavov's grappling prowess and determination to prove himself on a major stage. Adesanya's prediction adds intrigue, but fans will have to tune in to see if Borralho can indeed keep his perfect UFC record intact. UFC Paris has taken a sudden hit, as local favorite Fair Ziam has been forced to withdraw from his scheduled main card bout following the passing of his grandmother. The lightweight prospect, who had been on a 5-fight winning streak, announced the news through social media, expressing both his grief and his decision to prioritize family during this difficult time. Following the sudden death of my grandmother, her funeral arrangements in France and abroad, I regret to cancel my participation in UFC Paris on September 6th. Family is my priority, Ziam wrote in a heartfelt Instagram post. His absence not only marks a personal setback, but also removes a high-energy fight from Saturday's card at the Accor Arena. Ziam, one of France's most promising rising stars, was eager to compete in front of a home crowd at one of the UFC's most important European events of the year. For many fans, his presence on the card symbolized the growing strength of French MMA. Ziam's opponent, Kape Fernandez, is now left without a dance partner. Fernandez had been entering the bout with momentum of his own, rebounding from a controversial split decision debut loss to Mark Diakhizi with 2 straight wins. The clash with Ziam was seen as a dark horse contender for Fight of the Night honors, with the winner expected to move closer to lightweight rankings consideration. At this stage, the UFC has not announced a replacement opponent, making it likely Fernandez will be sidelined until a future event. UFC Paris will still move forward with a strong lineup, headlined by a pivotal middleweight showdown between Caio Borralho and Nassourdine Imavov. Still, the absence of Ziam, competing in his home country at the height of his career momentum, leaves a noticeable void on the card, and his withdrawal casts a somber shadow over what was meant to be a celebratory night for French MMA. UFC Vegas 112 has officially locked in its main event, and the promotion is closing out 2025 with a flyweight showdown that carries major implications for the division. On December 13th at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Brandon Royval will face Kape in a 5-round headliner that could determine the next wave of contenders at 125 pounds. The matchup has been a long time coming. Twice before, Royval and Kape were booked to fight this year, only for injuries to derail the plans. Their initial clash was scheduled for UFC Vegas 103 in March before Royval suffered a concussion. A second attempt at UFC 317 in July fell through when Kape broke his foot. Now, after months of delays, the two will finally settle their unfinished business in the promotion's last event before the Paramount media rights deal begins in 2026. For Royval, this bout offers a chance to reassert himself among the division's elite. Currently ranked number 3, the former title challenger stumbled earlier this year when he dropped a decision to late-notice replacement Joshua Van at UFC 317. Despite the setback, Royval remains one of the most dangerous and unpredictable fighters at flyweight, with his high-pressure style and submission-heavy arsenal making him a perennial threat. Kape, meanwhile, has surged into the title conversation with 6 wins in his last 7 outings. The former risen bantamweight champion has looked especially sharp as of late, scoring back-to-back knockouts over Bruno Silva and Asu Almabayev. Ranked number 7 at the moment, a win over a top 3 opponent like Royval could cement his case as a title challenger in 2026. The timing of this matchup also adds weight to the stakes, with reigning champion Alexandre Pantoja likely to defend against rising star Joshua Van before year's end. The winner of Royval vs. Kape could be perfectly positioned as the next man up. For the UFC, it's a fitting way to wrap up a year of chaos, reshuffling, and breakout moments in the flyweight division. After 2 failed attempts, fans are finally set to see Royval and Kape square off. If both men make it to the cage healthy, UFC Vegas 112 won't just close out the year with fireworks, it could set the tone for the flyweight landscape heading into 2026. Darren Till made his return to the spotlight in devastating fashion, delivering a highlight reel knockout win over former UFC champion Luke Rockhold at Misfits Boxing 22 in Manchester. The bout had been heavily hyped, thanks to a simmering rivalry between the two, with plenty of back-and-forth barbs thrown in the build-up. But once the cagey opening exchanges gave way, Till uncorked the kind of finish that had fans talking long after the event ended. Rockhold, once known for his durability and technical craft in MMA, was left lying flat, a result that shocked many who didn't expect the fight to be over so quickly. For Till, the moment felt less like a dramatic culmination, and more like a natural extension of his instincts as a striker. Speaking afterward at the Misfits Boxing 22 post-fight press conference, the Liverpudlian revealed that he wasn't even consciously piecing things together in the ring. Instead, his years of high-level competition carried him through, and his timing landed perfectly at just the right moment. He was blunt in his assessment of Rockhold's performance, describing him as stiff, slow to adjust, and ultimately easy to read. In Till's words, the knockout was too easy, something that flowed directly from muscle memory rather than a complex game plan. That frankness wasn't just a dig at Rockhold, it was also Till's way of making clear that he intends to use this platform to carve out his next chapter. Misfits Boxing has built a reputation around crossover clashes between influencers and established fighters, but Till insists he isn't simply there for quick paydays or gimmick fights. He wants bouts that matter, and he's ready to take on whoever will step up, whether that's another veteran from combat sports or a high-profile personality who can draw eyes to the ring. His fiery call-out of Carl Froch underscored this, as he pressed the retired boxing champion to back up his reputation instead of sitting on the sidelines. The win has put Till back on fans' radar in a way that MMA had stopped offering him in recent years. Once touted as one of the UFC's brightest young contenders, his career in the octagon fizzled out under the weight of tough losses and inconsistency. Now, the knockout of Rockhold has breathed new life into his career and positioned him as a name to watch in the unpredictable world of crossover boxing. For Rockhold, meanwhile, the setback raises questions about what comes next and whether he can continue competing at a high level. For Till, though, the road ahead looks wide open. with renewed confidence, a major statement win, and plenty of potential opponents lining up in both combat sports and entertainment-driven boxing.